Arcade 1UP is back at it again with another arcade cabinet, this time a seated arcade cabinet, which has been featured before, but this is the first time it includes a steering wheel. So you guys may or may not know that I'm a huge fan of racing simulator games, so this definitely has caught my particular interest, although I would not consider Outrun a racing simulator game. But anyways, today, as of November 4th, 2020, Arcade 1UP is now promoting their Outrun Seated Arcade Cabinet. It will run you $499 US, and it's going to be shipping in early December. It's going to include the base Outrun game, Turbo Outrun, Outrunners, and Power Drift. And I thought it'd be kind of cool to take a look at this. I've done videos on these arcade cabinets before because they continue to fascinate me. And they also really do a phenomenal job, I think, of continuing to reinvent themselves. So you think back to like the first set of arcade cabinets that came out. They were definitely very basic looking. They didn't have a riser. The artwork wasn't as nice. And now they're really starting to get a lot more like exciting looking. And I want to show you guys just little details, that things I think that really start to make this kind of stand out. So from the side view here, you have a great shot of the Outrun key art, which I fondly remember playing this game a lot in the arcades. But not, so that's pretty standard. But you see how the cabinet kind of curves on the top here, and then it's got this nice curved piece in. It's different than some of the other cabinets they have that are just basically solid rectangles. So I feel like the guys at Arcade 1UP are starting to kind of modernize the cabinets a little more and putting a little more contour in them. It might not seem like a big detail to you, but from an architecture standpoint, it's a lot more pleasing to the eye, I think, for sure. This does also feature a seat, which as far as I can tell is not connected. So the fact that it is kind of covering up a little bit of the key art here, I don't think that's a problem. As far as I can tell, the seat, totally independent, does not clip in. It's fully adjustable. So you may end up having your seat way out over here, or it may be tucked in even more. The seat itself doesn't look too bad. It definitely models the back of the car with kind of that grill effect on the back end there, and it's got some nice little stripes there, just probably a standard seat, nothing too fancy there. But let's go ahead and take a look at the pedals. So this does include, as a racing game, you do get a steering wheel and you do get pedals. You get a gas and a brake. There is no clutch. You'll also notice here you actually get a shifter with a button on it. Usually it's like low and high, and then you got your regular toggle buttons, and then you got this really giant steering wheel here that's really oversized. I don't know if they include the specifications of the actual steering wheel. I don't see it here. It just says steering wheel, unfortunately. But yeah, that looks like a pretty nice size steering wheel. I'm sure if you wanted to get fancy, you could extrapolate the size of the screen and figure it out, but it seems pretty good. Unfortunately, it's not telescopic. This was true of a lot of the old arcade racing games, particularly one of my favorites, Spy Hunter, where the wheel was a single mount to the cabinet and it did not pull up, down, left, or right, which makes it telescopic. So I feel like that might be a little bit uncomfortable for some, depending on your particular height and your preference when holding a wheel. You will be using primarily one hand on these games, as you are using the shifter, and you got the turbo button on the side of the shifter. So most likely you're going to be holding the wheel with one hand. It may alter your grip because of how it's positioned, but just to be aware of that. But yeah, I think this is cool. I really feel like Arcade 1UP is, they continue to impress. And, we're getting more now towards, I feel like, true arcade type quality. The only couple of things I guess I would critique, if anything, on top of the stuff I've already mentioned, I like that they put some gauges and stuff here to kind of fill out this panel here where you're holding this, where the steering wheel is. But, the actual, like, gauges, obviously, they're static. but they're covered up by the wheel, and it just doesn't, I don't know, it just doesn't feel very natural. The fact that they're not really lined up per se, you have a gauge down here and then one up here, and you got this kind of weird space. The start button's kind of tucked in, down on the corner, kind of almost too close to the wheel. I don't know. I feel like this could have probably been designed better. And the reality is, this button could have been placed anywhere. You could have easily put the start button up here, next to the music track select buttons or somewhere in that area. I'm definitely impressed by the size of the wheel. I think that's a phenomenal point. That's really, I think the highlight your eye is naturally going to gravitate to, like, I could hold the steering wheel and turn left and right, of course. But yeah, I think when you kind of start to dissect it and you look at, like, well, the gauges just look a little off. I think like they could have probably done a better job with that. But yeah, this is cool, man. If you're a fan of this stuff and you remember the days like I do of going to an arcade and playing, some of your favorite racing games, and if one of them was Outrun, you're definitely going to be interested in this. Outside of the, I'm looking at the basic dimensions here. It's a beast, 113 pounds. There is some assembly required. It's the standard, pretty much arcade one-up box dimensions. It doesn't look any bigger or smaller than any of the other ones. You got your variable volume switch, which is pretty standard in these now. It says a light-up marquee. I'm not really sure where the light part would be per se. I don't really see any place for LEDs. Maybe there's some light in here. There was a video that they did highlight some of the stuff, but I didn't really notice anything that stood out. I'm guessing maybe they consider that light up. Maybe it's got a small LED kind of behind there on this top runner piece, if anything. But if not, I'm not going to critique them over that. But yeah, considering what some of the other cabinets cost, this is definitely in that premier price point. Like I did the video on some of these other ones you may recognize from some other videos I've done on my channel, because I do cover these quite a bit. But it's definitely in that higher tier for sure, no doubt about it. And that's just something to consider. But I feel like if you did get this, you may want to modify it almost immediately to do some sort of wheel adjustment. You're going to be sitting up pretty square to play this game. I have a racing simulator station that is independent of an arcade cabinet at my house. And I have the steering wheel mounted to an IKEA table. And I adjust the pedals constantly. The pedals are definitely not directly under the steering wheel. As a matter of fact, a lot of these arcade games are really meant for playing standing up. So you don't really have that option based on this height. So be cognizant of that as well. But yeah, I'm a fan. Despite all that, I think it's really, really cool. And if anybody gets one, leave a comment below. If you get a video of it, you playing it or talking about it, I'd love to get some firsthand experience from somebody who's owned one of these. But very, very cool. I will post a link to this official website in the description box below. You could pick up your very own. And thank you guys so much for watching. Take care of yourselves. And until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.